So today I want to talk about how I lost weight with intermittent fasting, just kind of like an overview, if you will, because it took me a while to kind of land on my current plan. So back in 2014, that's when I decided to lose weight. The reason for it was I saw a picture of myself on Facebook and I was not pleased. So I decided right then and there, I'm going to change, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, but whatever I do, I still want to be able to eat the foods that I know that I will eventually go back to eating. And I want it to be maintainable. Like whatever I do, I don't want to end up back in this same place. I just don't want to do this anymore. And I should mention, I've always had problems with my weight. Like there have been times where I've been thinner, but generally speaking, as a kid, a lot of times I was chunky, and then after I got married, I gained some weight, then I lost it, and then after I had babies, that's really when I had my first baby, I lost all the baby weight, had the second one, lost most of it, and then the third one, I just really didn't lose any of it. And in fact, I probably gained some weight after that. So in 2014, I knew I needed to change something. So for a year there, I tried like jogging every day, 3 miles a day. I tried, higher protein, lower carb. I tried a lot of things and nothing really worked. And so in 2015, about February, I finally went to the gym and I got on the scale for the first time in years. And I thought I was going to be about 195. I thought, well, no big deal. It won't be that bad. And it was 222 pounds. So at that point, I was like, okay, at least now I know where I'm at. Because before, I think I was in still a little bit of denial about where I really was and how far I had to go. So I started doing CrossFit. I tried lots of different things. I tend to get bored easily, so I was trying to change up, like doing, CrossFit and then lean gains. And lean gains is where I heard about intermittent fasting. So at that point, I started kind of toying with the notion of changing my eating habits along with some really hard exercise. So I started like pushing my breakfast further and further into the day. And eventually I got to the point where I was skipping breakfast entirely on purpose for calorie restriction purposes, and then just eating lunch and dinner. And I was starting to have some results. Like I had basically I ended up doing that about 20 pounds. And so, or a little bit more. But at the time I was doing, what I really enjoyed doing was powerlifting. The CrossFit thing, it was too tough on my body, I guess. I don't know. I just didn't have it in me to continue on with CrossFit. But I really did love powerlifting. And so I was having good results with it. And then I hurt my back. I was doing a deadlift, apparently with poor form, and so I popped something in my back. I don't know what happened, but it was enough where I couldn't do deadlifts anymore, or at least I felt like I was going to hurt myself even worse. So I said I can't do that, and that kind of put the kibosh on all the different kind of weight bearing or heavy weights and everything. I just couldn't do them anymore with any comfort. So then I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Because at this point, the scale had started to tick back upward. I wasn't as active because my back was hurting and that kind of thing. And I was just kind of lost. And I was starting to get scared because I was back up to 206. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because I thought I was having I was having success, but I could just see myself gaining all the weight back. So I said, okay, well, I've got to come up with a different plan. So I kind of, throughout the rest of that year, for about 3 months, I was plateaued. I was right there at the 203 mark, 206 to 203. I could not get below 200 to save my life. So I was like, okay, well, I've got to figure something else out. So I read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Body. And that book, even though I didn't do the slow carb thing, which is what he recommends, one thing that I took away from that book was to start experimenting on yourself. Just run an experiment. And if it doesn't work, don't tell yourself you're a failure. Just say, well, that experiment didn't work. I'm on to the next thing. So I thought, okay, well, what should I do? I tried the Shangri-La diet, which I also read about in his book, for just a couple of days, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to drink sugar water or, whatever the thing was. I knew that I wouldn't stick with that. So I said to myself, okay, you've had success with intermittent fasting, and by this point, I had been doing intermittent fasting for a while. I mean, since probably July of the previous year. So that was a pretty long time that I was able to consistently stick with that. So I said, okay, well, you're going to continue intermittent fasting. By that point, I was basically having like a late lunch and then supper. And you're going to walk 6 miles every day. And I chose 6 miles. Why? I don't know. I just kind of came up with it. It was more than the 10,000 steps. At that point, 14,000 steps was 6 miles on my Fitbit. So I said, okay, 14,000 miles, 6 miles a day. That's like it was just a good goal to me. And so I just started doing it. And slowly but surely, the weight started to come down and down and down. And then somewhere along the way, the stomach virus went through our family. And I didn't get the stomach virus, but I was so nervous and kind of like high strung. I could only bring myself to really eat once a day. And that week, the scale like went down by 6 pounds, and that was not like a true 6 pound weight loss, because I always keep track of my running like 7-day average, and it really was more about like 2 pounds. But I was like, hey, this might be something. I might be onto something here. So I said, okay, from, for at least a few weeks, I'm going to see if I can get to 1 meal a day and just stay there, see what happens. And that was the point where I really started to see like a consistent going down of the scale a bit faster than what I was doing when I was eating 2 meals a day. And so from January of 2016 until November, that's when I lost from like 203 down to 157. So that was the best. I was at the end of it, I felt awesome. I liked the way I looked, and even though at that point I was still a couple of pounds overweight, like according to my BMI, I was still happy with where I was. And so I decided to then see if I could maintain it. And I've maintained it for almost a year now. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So that's what my journey was like.